All right, so what you're gonna do, the very first step in working with the grid, all right, you're gonna select an image. In my case, what did I do? I found an image that was on the internet, okay? I found an image of a tiger that I was interested in drawing, okay? And I measured off a 2x2 section. Now, I was gonna start from the top here and just measure off 2x2, so let me show you what happened. I took my ruler and I laid it there, and I saw that the 2x2 ended right at his nose. I didn't want that, I wanted a little bit more of his face. So what I did is I simply went ahead and I measured off from this point to here, I think it was a quarter inch, and then I did my line. And then from here, I measured off 2 inches. So I took my ruler and I measured off 2 inches here, and then 2 inches here, and I made my line. And then here, I measured off the section that I wanted. I just went ahead arbitrarily looking for my 2x2. And I went ahead and I sketched that out. Then I went ahead and I went from, actually I was a little bit more mathematical. I took this section and I did this section and I tried to make sure it was straight so that way I could get a straight line. So that's what you do to get a straight line. You measure from this point out to here to make sure it's straight as you do it. So here's now my 2x2 area, okay? So now let's talk about the math real quick. So I know it sounds weird talking about math and art, what? All right, so with the math, okay, you're starting off with a 2x2 image. Now, if I did that 2x2 image 2 times bigger, okay? 2 times 2 is what? You guys help me. Come on, this is simple math. 2 times 2 is what?
4.
4, perfect. So, what I would do is then it would be 4 by 4. Remember I told you can make your image 4 by 4 or 8 by 8, but I prefer 8 by 8. So, let's make it now 3 times bigger, okay? So 2 times 3 is what?
2 times 3, 6.
6, right. So it would be 6 by 6. So you basically take this number, this is how large you're making it, okay? This is like how much more you're amplifying it, okay? So here's my 2x2 image. I'm making it 2 times bigger, it's gonna be 4 by 4. If I make it 3 times bigger, it's gonna be 6 by 6. If I make it 4 times bigger, it's gonna be what? 4 times 2 is what? 8. So it'd be 8 by 8. So bam, I could go on for a while. Okay, let's say I want 5 times bigger, it'd be 10 by 10. And if I want 6 times bigger, it would be 12 by 12. So I could keep on going according to my paper size, okay? Or my wall size, okay? Now, in this case, we're gonna do it on our sketchbooks. We know that our sketchbook is 9 by 12. So the largest we can go is what? 8 by 8, okay? So you're gonna take that 2x2 image and you're now gonna make it 8 by 8. So what do we do? Now that I've already done pretty much my measurement here, okay, I'm gonna quickly measure off an 8 by 8 section because I wanna make my image 8 by 8. So what I'll do, just to make my life easy, is I'll start from the top and I'll measure off 1 inch. And then I'll do it again here, 1 inch. And then I'll do it again here, another 1 inch, okay? And then again 1 inch, just so that way I know for sure that these lines are gonna be straight, okay? That's the first step. So I'll go ahead quickly, and just so I have that measurement straight, that angle, that edge is gonna be a 90-degree angle, and it will be, yes.
So what if my paper, I don't have notebook paper, like the one that we use, the sketchbook. So what if I have 11 by 8?
Okay. If you have 11 by 8, well, this is 8.5 by 11. If you have regular copy paper, it's 8.5 by 11. So you'll have a 1/2 inch on the edges, and that's fine, okay?
Okay.
So what I would do, like, let's say this is your paper that you're measuring. Okay, perfect example. Here's my 8.5 by 11, right? So what I'll do instead, I already know that my image is gonna be 8 by 8. So what I'll do is I will just take my ruler against that darn edge and I'll measure off, okay, here's my 8. I'll do it again just so I get a straight line. Another 8. And then what will I do? I'll measure off that 8. So I know right now that that area right there is 8. Okay? And now let's go the other way. So here I'll measure off 8 inches from the top and 8 inches from the top. Okay, so now I know proportionately that 2 by 2, oh boy, that did not come out right. Hold on a second, something went wrong. I must not be looking at this right. Sorry guys, I have a little bit what we call an astigmatism. And astigmatism sometimes creates weird things. It does weird things to you. Okay, makes you see things wrongly. I think that one was the one that I did wrong. Okay, there we go. So now here is my 8 by 8 area, okay? So, hold on, let me make this a little higher. There we go. So now that is my 8 by 8 area, okay? So I know here 8 by 8, and I'm working with a regular, you know, this typing paper, okay? Now wait, Jamaria's coming in. All right, let me write her name down. Oh wait, I had it on the back of here, Jamaria. See what happens when you guys come in late, it drives me nuts. Okay, now, so here we've got the 8 by 8, if you plan to do the 8 by 8 on a regular copy paper, and we'll talk about this in a minute. So I'm gonna do my 8 by 8, like I said, in my sketchbook, but somebody asked, you know, hey, what if I have a smaller size paper? That's fine, okay? In this case, I have 8 by 8. Now, I'm gonna measure off, because this is what I would do first. Just measure off your 8 by 8. Now here, I'm gonna measure from this point. I'm gonna get up because like I told you, you have astigmatism. Astigmatism tends to do weird things to you. If anybody has astigmatism, it's basically your eyes are shaped differently and you tend to see in a slanted way. It's kind of weird. All right, so now I've got my 8 by 8 section. Okay, perfectly 8 by 8. All right, now, okay, that's 8 by 8 now. Okay, so now I know according to proportion, okay, let's talk about proportion. This is 2 by 2, okay, and my 2 by 2 section is now going to definitely fit in this 8 by 8 because according to math, if it's 2 times bigger, it is 4 by 4. If it's 3 times bigger, it's 6 by 6. If it's 4 times bigger, it's 8 by 8. In this case, we're doing it 4 times bigger. Now, another thing I thought of, if anybody wants to, if there's anybody out there who's interested in art, I'm just putting this out there. Photographs are normally 4 by 6, right? Let's say you are intrigued by maybe some photograph that you have of, I don't know, a loved one, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever, and you want to try this grid thing using that photograph. What can you do? Well, let's give it a shot. If you made it 2 times bigger, it would be 8 by 12. So guess what? That fits perfectly inside your sketchbook, except you'll have 1 inch at the top, I think, that you won't use, okay? But the measuring is extremely important, and I'll explain to you why. Now, so if you wanted to, you could take maybe a photograph and do the photograph instead in your 9 by 12 sketchbook, and it would be 8 by 12. You'll have 1 inch at the top or bottom that's left alone, okay? Now, let me show you why the measurement is so important. Now, next step. I'm gonna take this image, and what I'm going to do is I'm gonna divide it, because according to the grid, by proportion is the way we work. So half of 2 is 1, and I'll do it 2 times, so that way I can make a straight line. So that way I know for sure my lines are coming out straight. Now, the next one, I'm gonna go ahead and do it half again. And I'm gonna do it at the 1/4 inch and the 1/4 inch, okay? And I'll do it again down here, okay? 1/4 and 1/4. So now I could go ahead and put those divisions in using my ruler. Division, the division. I'm gonna separate it by 4, okay? Now, and then I'm gonna do the same thing here, okay? I'm working in squares. That's what the grid is all about. And what I just did is I did a half, half, half. That's all I did. Half of 2 is 1. Half of the 1 is the quarter inch. And I'll do it again, and I'll go ahead and put the lines through. By doing it twice, that helps you to get a straight line. Now, I sent out a video. The video just talked about how to make the lines in this particular image. Now, remember, you're not drawing this part. You're not drawing this part, nor this part, nor this part. Another thing I tend to do, just to help myself while I work with the grid, I'll even use tape to go over it so I don't see it. I don't know. You may want to get into that habit, or maybe mark it off, you know, do whatever you can so you don't get confused and go beyond that point, okay? You could use tape, you could use a marker, whatever you want to do to go ahead and section that part off. So here's now my 2x2 section that has been gridded, and now I'm gonna go with the proportion now. Proportionately, okay, the 2x2 now becomes a little larger. I'm gonna do the same division, okay? Half of 8 is 4. So what I'm gonna do, remember what we just did? We did half and half, okay? So now I'm gonna do the same thing here. So what I'm gonna do, half of 8 is, and we came up with 8 how? Like I said, we did the math. And what we decided is to do the 8 because of the fact that my sketchbook is a certain size. So what we're gonna do is that 4 point and the 4-inch point again. That's the halfway. And then I also know that half of 4 is 2. Okay, so I'll put it at the 2-inch, and then another 2 inches here. And then I'll do it again down here so I could get straight lines, okay? So the 2 point, the 2 edge, already I got one for the 4, and now I put it for the 6, because it's 2, 4, 6, 8. Now, and I'll do the same thing here. I'm gonna have to get up because, like I said, I have astigmatism, so I tend to see things weirdly. So I always have to be almost 90 degrees in front of something. So that way it's not askew or warped. My eyes naturally warp things. So I just did 2, 4, and 6. Again, what did I do? Half, half, and half. So now what happens is I now go ahead and I'll draw in my lines. The half's the half, okay? Half, half, halves all the way through. Then I'll come up with the exact same amount of squares as I have in the smaller image. Yeah.
Does the thing that we have to copy have to be exactly 2x2?
Well, like I said, do you remember what I just said about the photograph? If I have anybody who is a little bit more talented, or if they're a little bit more involved with their work, you're welcome to go ahead and choose a different size. As long as you do the math, and the math tells you you could do it on that surface. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, for some kids that get this, like, you know, I might have had 1 or 2 that have done this already, okay? So if you've done this already, you're like, yo, I've done this before, I'm an expert at it, so can I do something else? Yeah, you're welcome to try a different size. Like I said, here I said a kid, if maybe there's a kid that has maybe a photograph, that maybe they want to do it 2 times bigger, so that it's in the 8x12, or maybe you got a bigger sketchbook, I don't know. You could do it, why you doing it 12x18? That's the size of the paper too. That's the paper size that I've asked you guys to get. So you could literally go even larger if you are so into the picture, if you want to. Maybe you want to give it away as a gift to somebody. I don't know. All right, so now what you're going to do, in each square, okay, you're going to be putting this square here, this image here, this part here, and so on. and so on, and so on. Now, I'm gonna teach you a little trick that Shaker does, okay? And the reason why I do this is because I think, okay, I must confess, I think I have a little bit of what you call ADHD, okay? So what do? Okay? In order to help me, so I don't go a little wacko when I see all this measuring, okay, and all this detail, what I do is I'll mark off a section here. And I'll do it and you just watch, okay? This is what I do when I work with the grid, is because it helps me to focus in on an area, and it helps me to think only of that section while I'm working. So that way I know for sure I'm gonna get that correctly, okay? Like I know when I was doing the imagery of that young girl in the background, there was so much detail. It would have driven me nuts if I had to have done that by regular hand. So I allowed the grid to help me. But you know, do I stay gravitating only to the grid? No, I don't. I tend to divert a bit. Sometimes I'll draw in flowers wherever I want to. I'll put in a person if I want to. That for sure. It's like the grid helps me in some way to get, you could say, the stage set. Okay, like setting the stage. It helps me set the stage. So what I just did here with this little thing, okay, is that I just made this little thing so I could concentrate and focus only in that area, okay? And I will do the same thing for this. I will go ahead and make something, and you could use an extra sheet of paper. I'll take an extra sheet of paper and I'll make sure I'll do it on the straight edge area, okay? The area that's straight, not the part that I cut. I always use the straight edge area. So that way I don't have to think too hard. I'll go ahead and, like I said, I'll mark off that section. So that way it's easier for me to focus in that area. I don't know, maybe you take this as good advice. Maybe you don't use it, maybe you use it. I'll let you decide that, okay? If you're detail freaky picky, this might be the way to go. If you're not too detail freaky weaky, then you're okay, all right? I'll let you decide. It's just something that I use as a tool to help myself, okay? Whether you use it or don't use it, I'll let you make that decision, okay? But it just helps me to focus in on that area so I don't have to work too hard. And it helps me focus. So when I've got all this detail to work with, it's like, oh, it becomes much better. So now I can focus in that area without, major hyperventilation, okay, you could say. And what I'll do is, like I said, pardon?
What if you're drawing, let's say, one of the 3D objects, or is it going to be 2D?
Well, like I said, you decide. You're going to make a decision, whatever you want to draw. Whatever you want to draw today, whatever you want. See, whatever you want your image to be, you're choosing your image. It could be a person, it could be a cartoon character. Whatever this image turns out to be, that's up to you. That's not up to me.
Can I do a free drawing instead?
No, Jesse, actually for this, I would rather you try to do this. If you can't, then, you know our agreement, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, try. If you can't do it, then go back to our agreement that we talked about.
Yeah.
All right, now, so I'm gonna focus in just in that area right there, okay? And I'm just gonna roughly sketch what I see. Another thing that I'll do too is I'll even go a little further, and I'll just do lightly a little X and X here, and I'll do a little light X and X here, so I know where it is that I have to put these lines. And I'll go about just coming in with a light sketch of whatever it is that I'm drawing in that area, okay? Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what's gonna happen. Then when you're all done with the drawing, all done with the sketch, then you could go in and color it, okay? And like I said, be creative. Go ahead and use your choice of color pencil. You want to keep it pen and ink, you could keep it pen and ink. Here I'm drawing in pen so you guys could see what I'm doing, okay? Without me drawing in pen, I think, forget it, you probably wouldn't be able to see what it is that I'm drawing over here, okay? That's why I chose to do this in pen, so you could see it on the camera, okay? So right now I just sketched in that little area, and I know this is, and I'll maybe come in with my pencil and go real light so I know that that's the negative space, so I know that that area is dark. So I'll quickly sketch that in very lightly, and not, don't do the lines too dark too soon per se. Wait till later to kind of fill it in, all right? Does that make sense to you guys? Is there anybody confused, bewildered? Someone in here that still doesn't understand?
I'm so confused.
Who said I'm so confused?
Not so, but like I am confused about so I have a little ruler, but like obviously that's not like I could make it work. But so I can get whatever image I want. Let's say I want